100-foot-deep sinkhole forced the state to close Highway 24 north of Leadville.
Crews decided to shut down 24 because they're afraid the sinkhole will get even bigger.
The sinkhole's collapse exposed an old railroad tunnel buried long ago. KUSA gives us a quick history lesson on the tunnel's origin and reports the tunnel was part of an old route that was built in the 1880s because of the mining industry.
These pictures come from the Western History Collection at the Denver Public Library. They show the line still in use back in the 30s. Union Pacific now owns it and tells us the collapsed tunnel has been abandoned.
There's a thin line between
was hurt. Luckily, nobody was hurt, but this sinkhole did get very close to homes, and I want to show you the sinkhole right behind me. It covers 2 lanes, so it is causing some major problems along Mountain View Drive in Lafayette. Now let's go ahead and bring up some video and I'll explain what happened. The sinkhole opened up yesterday afternoon following some heavy rains. The storm caused a creek to overflow, saturating the ground and eroded the street, which caused it to suddenly drop. Nobody was hurt, but a few homes were without water while utility crews repaired underground lines. This neighborhood sits near downtown Lafayette, just a few blocks behind the Trader Joe's on Mount Diablo Boulevard. This morning, the road remains closed and there are detours in place. This is one big mess to clean up. There are PG&E crews on scene, other utility crews. They've been trying to dig up some of the debris, and you can see that big pile right behind me. They're also going to have to clean up the creek and then come up with a permanent solution for the street.
being well and being ill. That's what Julia told me, and I know she always will. I'm falling now, I'm falling. There's a thin line between what you are and what you aren't. I'm afraid of loving you, and you're afraid I can't. I'm falling now, I'm falling. I'm falling now, you're calling.
Continuing coverage now in Assumption Parish. It's one of the biggest chunks of land to fall into the sinkhole since we started talking about the problem in August. A 1,600 square foot area fell into the hole late yesterday afternoon in Assumption. Thankfully, officials are not reporting any injuries, just trees falling in with the collapse. This latest area was on the eastern side.
The Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality launched a group of scientists into the Assumption Parish slurry. Their mission was to look for radioactive materials.
We're doing it now because of it's a site that was used for oil and gas production, and that's typically a site where you'll find this kind of material. And we're doing it now because we've taken continuous air and water samples since July 13th. And we're just doing it out of abundance of caution.
The initial tests found nothing radioactive, but more materials have been sent for further testing. Those results are
And a stunning sight in western Florida, a sinkhole swallowing the entire front half of this house. A nearby home also in jeopardy. Neighbors say they've actually been complaining about sinkholes forming in the area for years, and, well, you can see why.
A massive sinkhole has created a sickening situation.
Yeah, a sewer main broke more than 2 months ago in Bay Ridge, creating a huge hole in the street. But as CBS 2's Dave Carlin reports, the stench has now become a major problem.
The smell is horrible and the noise. I mean, people have to deal with this day and night.
2.5 months of misery and counting is how 92nd Street residents describe the work on this enormous sinkhole. Night and day, workers are going down more than 70 feet, fixing sewer pipe that is more than a century old, and unleashing sickening smells. Ida Skeff, who lives closest to the crater, was out with me on her front steps, but not for long.
It smells so bad.
Because of the smell and noise, residents keeping windows closed and paying higher utility bills because of the extra air conditioning they must use. Many are concerned the stench is making them sick, even though the city says there is no proof of that.
I'm actually concerned. Is it dangerous to the health of the community?
DEP is trying to put in the charcoal filters to try to deal with some of the odor.
City Council member Vincent Gentili says one reason this is taking so long is even a short rain shower can flood the sinkhole and stop the work.
Gentili says what's happening down there is a wake-up call because with outdated pipes all over this area of Brooklyn, it's not a question of if this will happen again, it's when.
And as you're about to see, it made one sinkhole in Baltimore a whole lot worse. Cell phone cameras captured this funnel in the water off Cobb Island in Charles County during a tornado warning that set off sirens. But it was severe rains that did the real damage. Overwhelming streams and gutters, flooding out fields and roads and trapping cars in washed out streets. But the power of the rain perhaps most evident in the 2300 block of East Monument Street, where it nearly doubled the size of a problem sinkhole the city had been dealing with for weeks, stunning neighbors.
Is everything gonna sink? I mean, can I walk down the street right here?
Waters ripped away huge chunks of earth and concrete, ripping open the street from one sidewalk to the other and forcing authorities to evacuate a few of the residents.
Line between being well and
family's entire backyard was swallowed up by the earth. Take a look at this massive sinkhole opened up Friday. Suddenly, the yard was gone.
Pulled open the curtains, and there it was.
And it is still growing so close to the home, in fact, that the family had to move out. Robert Metheny and his wife say they definitely won't be coming back.
County home.
I couldn't stand the thoughts of having to tell her Lassie's gone.
4 or 5 times she circled this giant hole in the backyard. Nothing. Until finally, on the 6th try.
Her little nose came out of one of the rocks for just a second, and I could tell she was moving and was okay.
Lassie had fallen some 20 feet below. What did you scream down into this hole?
Lassie, come here, girl. You know, just all this stuff. I got a treat, anything that I can think of.
I was the guy that done all the main rigging.
The men from the rescue squad were amazing.
It wasn't just a straight 18-foot drop. He bounced back and forth till he hit that one.
We put her in a red bag and hauled her up, so we called him Santa Claus for a minute.
The 3-month-old pup was finally pulled up after more than 3 hours below the ground.
I was like, she should be saving me, not the other way around.
Getting her dream dog for the 2nd time now, Macy will not be letting her go.
She was perfectly okay, just scared.
Lassie is doing just fine tonight. Rescuers say that they actually rescue a lot of different animals, including cows and horses in that part of the state, from sinkholes. They say their part of the state has more sinkholes than any other part of the state because a lot of the ground out there is made of limestone.
A growing number of people across north central Florida are experiencing that sinking feeling. Unpredictable and devastating sinkholes are covering north central Florida, pulling the rug from out underneath homeowners. TV 20's Chris Gilmore reports that despite efforts to recover, one neighborhood is still going under.
With more sinkholes than I can count on all my fingers and toes, residents of the town of O'Brien, Florida, just north of Brantford, are still watching the landscape change. They hope that with help from the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the county, they can scrape themselves out of the hole.
It was a very surreal, gut-wrenching feeling.
Bo Morris isn't describing a dream, but referring to a flash flood of near biblical proportions following Tropical Storm Debbie. In 12 years here, he says he's never seen anything like it.
Of course, that night I didn't sleep, and the next night I didn't sleep, and it was, you know, trying to make sure everything was going to be okay.
Losing sleep, property value, and patience in a worsening situation. I'm standing here in O'Brien, Florida, in one of Mr. Morris's sinkholes. This one measures at least 7 feet deep, and it's one of the around 50 or so that he said that he's counted so far in his 10 acres. And it's probably not the last one, considering that there's more opening up every day.